Have you ever said to yourself, why God? Why me? Or have you ever literally questioned God and said, God, why me? And the question that I have for you today is, why not you? So ask yourself that, why not me? Sometimes when we think about our childhood, our upbringing, our adolescent, teenage years, going into our young adult life. Sometimes we can, and now presently looking back for those of us who, have a few years on us, we may think like, wow, like, why did I have to go through that? Why was I faced with that? Why did I grow up there? Why did they raise me? Why were they my parents? All of the questions. But listen, again, why not you? A lot of our childhood, our upbringing, the way we were raised, how we were taught, the culture we were brought up in, the environment we were brought up in, all of that plays a big role, a large percentage of the purpose that God has in our life. It plays a big percentage on the mantle that he's placed on many of our lives because of how we were brought up, how we were raised, the situations that we were brought into. So on today, I just want to share a little bit more background on me. Okay. Cause you like, Ke'Aira, wait a minute. What you talking about? You talking about some poverty, prosperity, girl. For all we know, you could have just been, handed that silver spoon. Listen, let me tell you, sis, that is not the case. So thank you again for tuning into Prosperity is My Portion. I am your host, Ke'Aira Jahneh, and prosperity ran in my family until it ran into me. Listen, on this podcast, if you are seeking to improve your financial situation, grow spiritually, and live a life of abundance, you are in the right place. And listen, you need to say goodbye to being broke and broken. You see broken over there? Goodbye. Y'all remember that song? So long, bye bye. Goodbye to my broken days. So long, goodbye. I just made my own song, okay? But listen, let me give this disclaimer real quick. If you're on this episode, if you are a part of Prosperity is My Portion community, let me just let you know you're going to laugh. Okay. And there might be some moments where, it might make you clutch your pearls, as I like to say. Just took my breath away with that one. But you might have to clutch your pearls. So as a disclaimer, listen, anyone who knows me, my mom, my brother, my sister, I'm silly. I like to have a good time. And I want you as well to enjoy listening to this podcast. While it is informative, it gives practical things, spiritual things, and tools. I want you to enjoy it. Okay. And listen, I want to share a little bit again on my journey, kind of how I started off. And really that answered my question. A lot of the questions that I had to God, a lot of the questions that I even gave to myself. And the Lord was like, Ke'Aira, you had to go through that. So I could show you what I placed in your hands. A lot of us, we needed certain things to happen for God to bring out the best in us. We needed those ashes to be turned into beauty. We needed the brokenness so God could mold it back together and make it beautiful again. We needed those situations where the enemy meant it for evil, meant it to destroy me, meant it to kill me. But God turned that thing around for my good. God turned that thing around to bless me. God turned that thing around to anoint me. God turned that thing around so I could have favor with God and man. God turned that thing around so I could receive all the blessings and promises that he has on my life. Listen, me growing up, man, listen, I'm gonna try to keep this short. I really want to keep these podcasts just straight to the point, okay? Cause I can talk, okay? Your sister can talk. But listen, I grew up, in poverty. Let me just start by saying that. That's why this podcast is Prosperity is My Portion, destroying poverty, because I grew up in it. And not only poverty, I grew up in toxic situations around domestic violence. I can go as far as back around the age of 5 and 6. I'll probably start there. Growing up with a single mother, my dad was not involved. Growing up saying dad was foreign to me because it was always Mr. to whomever my mother was dating at the time. That's how I addressed them. And at 5, being sexually violated by my mom's boyfriend at the time. 5 years old. Y'all see how the enemy don't have no respective person, honey. You could be a baby. Here he go. But listen, at the age of 5, and from there, living in shelters, living in the projects, at times no lights on. And I remember a time I can recall maybe 8 or 9 years old, we didn't have any running water. And I had to go to the neighbor beside me. I never forget, y'all. She had 3 daughters around my ages. We went to the same school. I rode the bus. I believe they were car riders. And I ain't had no transportation either, y'all. So everywhere we had to go, it was a bus, a taxi, or a ride. Or we use our 2 legs. We walked. But I remember at this particular time we had no water and the lights was off, and the neighbor was nice enough to allow me to come over and use their bathroom. And you all, at 8 and 9 years old, I felt so much humiliation. I'm like, I go to school with these girls. What they gonna think about me? But she opened her door to let me come take a shower and bathe with some lights on, okay? Down to having the candles, parents abuse drugs. I witnessed at the age of going on 14, my brother being born with drugs in his system. I experienced seeing an infant with withdrawals. Just a lot of things in shelter, seeing other abused women. I remember in one shelter we stayed in, and I was all over the place, y'all. And my grandmother, she's no longer here, but she used to say my mom had me from pillow to post. I was everywhere. So I was born in Jersey, born in Mount Holly, New Jersey. Mom brought me down here to South Carolina. I had some other relatives down here. So they like, come on, bring Ke'Aira on down here. So yeah, I that's how I ended up in South Carolina. Now, if I would have stayed in Jersey, I probably would have had a better northern accent. But it's all good though. So anyway, I get down here, and yeah, and then my mother has my little brother, so I experienced again seeing him with the withdrawals, and we were in Alabama at that time. So I went from Jersey, I believe in Virginia at a taller age, lived in Virginia, and then went to South Carolina to Alabama, back to South Carolina. And so I just was moving a lot. I moved so much with my mom. Man, I almost got retained in the middle school. I believe I almost had to repeat the 5th grade because I missed so many months of school. When we got to Alabama, they we need some school records, or she about to repeat this grade. And y'all, the hand of God was upon my life. I see it now with my 31-year-old self. Am I 31? Yes, I'm still 31. Okay. But I could see looking back that I didn't have to graduate high school late. Anyway, finally was able to start middle school, pick back up. They didn't make me start over because I had been moved around so much. And then, fast forward, here's my brother's born. Here comes the state at the hospital. They you're going to have to get somebody to get your children. Tried a friend of the family. Dad was temporary. My grandmother flew to Alabama, got me and my little brother, went to live with my grandmother, my grandfather at the age of 14. And then still, in a bit of a toxic situation there, and so I felt really alone a lot of the times. I actually came across a picture of a middle school photo of mine, and man, it literally just brought tears in my eyes because I remember that girl at that moment, who cried herself to sleep. Okay. Went to school, got on a bus with puffy eyes, but I just experienced so many impoverished situations with my mother, being removed from my mother's custody, not having my father there, been sent to my grandparents, and things were toxic there. But it just kept rolling itself out, and then that, and of course, I'm not going to go into all the details here. I wrote my book about it, Still Becoming, Discovering the Woman God Called Me to Be. I have more details in that book. So if you want more of the story, you got to get the book and read it. I'm getting so many great reviews about it. And they just reading the book and they just shaking their head like, Ke'Aira, my God. Yes, my God, the hand of God is upon my life. So, and upon your life. And so with all of that, even, went to high school. Here's my senior year, getting ready to go off to the Navy. Nope. Ke'Aira, this pregnancy test says positive. So here I am, 17, ready to be a new mom, and that relationship was toxic. So, y'all just see how the cycle can just repeat itself. But by the grace of God, God let me know that, Ke'Aira, all that you went through was not in vain. Those tears you shed was not in vain. And God reminded me, you all, just the other day that, Ke'Aira, even that 5-year-old girl that cried, that 12-year-old girl that cried, that 17-year-old teen mom that cried, all of those moments, bad tears, regretful tears, shameful tears, hurtful tears, tears of rejection, tears from the abandonment, tears from being in lack, tears from not having enough. God said, I got all of those tears. And for all of those tears, God is restoring the years from tears of mourning to tears of joy. Even when I tried to I did complete high school, but I was in a program where I could get my cosmetology license, and I couldn't get my license in my senior year because I didn't have the money and I didn't have the support. So, just in a nutshell, just to keep it short, I may have said a few things that really resonated with a lot of you. Being abandoned, by parents, not having a father, experiencing the drug addiction, the drug abuse, experiencing the abandonment, experiencing toxic cycles, experiencing the lack, all of the things. But listen, I'm here to tell you, everything that the enemy meant for evil, God is using that. And I see today how God has used those situations, use that to show me now what he has placed in my hand to destroy poverty for good. That I am the generational change agent. I am the bloodline breaker. And again, as I said, poverty reigned in my family until it got to me. Even times where the Lord would show me, even with my grandmother, things that she would try to hide, when she didn't have the money for the bill, when the electric got turned off. And I remember seeing her till this day in high school, sitting at the kitchen table in tears. Cause we sat there, y'all, for a few hours with no lights, but it hurt her so bad. And then the impoverishment of her health, leaving here through a cancer from a long-term illness. So poverty didn't just show up in my life financially, you all. It showed up in health. It showed up in relationships. It showed up in marriages. It showed up in, not having stability. It can show up in so many different ways. But I'm here to tell you, by you listening today, whatever, and as I say, whatever your impoverishment looks like, God can restore that thing. And he will show you exactly why everything that you went through, everything that you endured, everything that you overcame is all for his glory. It's for your testimony. So others can be strengthened by your testimony, but it's for his glory. So I just wanted to share that with you all today. So y'all understand, listen, why the Lord has put this on me so strongly, because I've seen it play back in generations, and I was able to go back 3 generations in my family and to see where this poverty has showed up in different ways. But listen, now through the power of the Holy Spirit, now through the blood of Jesus, now because of Jesus Christ, we can have this life and it more abundantly. So I implore you, listen, don't ever think that everything that you went through was for nothing, honey. It was all for a reason. God can use it. He will do something with it, as you witnessing right now. God is doing something through me, with that situation, with that childhood, with the adolescent time, with that young adult time. And even to presently today, God is still doing it, y'all. So be encouraged. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Prosperity is My Portion. And remember, don't just say prosperity is my portion. Make that your decree today. Prosperity is my portion. And again, if you are wanting to be a part of this community that is dedicated to breaking poverty, listen, go ahead and subscribe, follow, like, leave a review. I would love to read your feedback in the comments. And let's take the first step towards a prosperous future. I would like you to become a part of this community. Again, it's dedicated to breaking the cycle of poverty. And together, you guys, we can unlock generational prosperity that will evoke a life of wealth, worth, and wholeness. Take care, you all. Grace and peace. I will catch you on the next episode. Have an amazing, blessed rest of your day.